Good morning, students. Let me welcome you all to my that is video number 14 on solid state on the chapter solid state, right? In the previous classes, we discussed something about the classification of solids on the basis of the electrical properties, wherein we studied conductors, insulators, and semiconductors. In the today's discussion, we'll have a look over one theory that I can use for explaining properties. What we call it as band theory of solids. That is, the first discussion is band theory of solids. And of course, we have some brief discussion on this particular aspect. You are going to study this particular theory in physics also, of course. And as far as band theory of solids is concerned, according to band theory of solids, electrical conductivity of metals or solids depend upon the number of valence electrons available in an atom. Yes, number of valence electrons available in an atom, and that is. And as far as band theory of solids is concerned, atoms are characterized by atomic orbitals. Atoms are characterized by atomic orbitals. Some orbitals are characterized by low energy, that is occupied by the electrons. Some orbitals are characterized by high energy, not occupied by the electrons, because electrons prefer to occupy low energy orbitals, right? Okay, now when these atomic orbitals are undergoing combination, because a sample of metal is characterized by many atoms and they are very close to each other, and thereby the atomic orbitals undergo combination to form new orbitals called molecular orbitals. When atomic orbitals undergo combination, you are going to get new orbitals called molecular orbitals. Energy difference between the molecular orbitals is very, very less. And all these molecular orbitals in a sample of a given element, given substance, together form what we call it as a very closely spaced energy levels called bands. Very closely spaced energy levels called bands. And as far as bands are concerned, or you can say energy bands are concerned, we have two types of energy bands. One, it will be valence band. Another is conduction band. There are two types of energy bands. One, it will be valence band. Another is conduction band, right? These are the two types of energy bands. By the combination of atomic orbitals in a sample of solid or metal, right? Okay, now. And of course, as far as valence band is concerned, this valence band is produced by the overlapping of lower energy atomic orbitals. Yes, it is. These valence band that is produced by the combination of, or you can say, overlapping of lower energy atomic orbitals, right? And of course, generally, these valence bands are either fully filled, means either completely they are filled with electrons, or they are partially filled, with electrons. That is, either they are fully filled or partially filled. These fully filled or partially filled bands produced by the overlapping of low energy atomic orbitals, and they are called as what we call it as valence band. Okay, na? And of course, low energy atomic orbitals are characterized by electrons. The combination of overlapping of these low energy atomic orbitals results in the formation of new energy band called valence band, right? And as far as conduction band is concerned, this conduction band is of course produced by the overlapping of high energy atomic orbitals. That is, when high energy atomic orbitals undergo overlapping, and you are going to get a new energy bands called, it is conduction band. Okay, na? And these high energy atomic orbitals, generally they don't have electrons, right? Because electrons prefer to occupy low energy atomic orbitals, and of course, therefore, this conduction band is empty. And this conduction band is empty there. And this empty energy band produced by the, it is overlapping of high energy atomic orbitals, that is called as, it is conduction band. As far as solids are concerned, in the case of solids, and there is, solids are characterized by valence bands and conduction bands. And these two bands are separated by some amount of energy, and that is called as energy gap, or you can say forbidden zone or forbidden band, we call it as, right? In the case of solids, there is a energy gap between, it is conduction band and valence band. And of course, depending upon the energy gap between, valence band and conduction band, electrical properties of solids can be explained. depending upon the energy gap between valence band and conduction band, one can explain the electrical properties, or you can say electrical properties of solid state. Okay, na? As I said, band theory will make use of the concepts like valence band, conduction band, and energy gap. These are the three important terms that we use in the case of band theory of solids. So, as far as conductors are concerned, okay, in the case of conductors, right? In the case of conductors, right? In the case of conductors, right? Conductors are characterized by partially filled valence band. This is valence band with a lower energy. This is partially filled. Yes, it is valence band. This is valence band and it is partially filled. That is, it is energy axis, and if I move towards the top, energy increases, right? Conductors are characterized by partially filled valence band. Because of that, electrons will have a much space available for the free movement. Therefore, they are very good conductors of electricity. Metals are characterized by, conductors are characterized by partially filled valence band, and therefore electrons can easily move. And in the presence of electric field, electrons will be freely moving under the available space within the valence band. Therefore, they are very good conductors of electricity. Or in some cases, what happens, in the case of conductors, there is a overlapping of valence band and conduction band. Look at this. There is a conduction. This is what we call it as conduction band. Yes, this is what we call it as conduction band. Yes, this is conduction band, and this is valence band, right? There is a overlapping of conduction band and valence band in the case of conductors. Two possibilities. Either conductors are characterized by partially filled valence band, or there is a overlapping of conduction band and valence band. Therefore, electrons from the valence band, yes, electrons from the valence band can easily enter into the conduction band, so that they will get much free space for the movement in presence of electric field. Therefore, that is, conductors allow electricity to pass through them, and that is what we call it as conductors. Whereas in the case of insulators, look at this. In the case of insulators, right, there is a gap between. So there is a large gap between. Yes, there is a large gap between. Yes, between valence band and this is conduction band. Yes, there is a huge gap between valence band and conduction band. This is what we call it as. Yes, it is conduction band. Yes, this is what we call it as valence band. Yes, the energy gap between, yes, valence band and conduction band is very, very large. There is a large energy gap between valence band and conduction band. Therefore, electrons are unable to enter into the conduction band. Even at high temperature. Because of that, their electrical conductivity is very, very less, or you can say least. This is what we call it as insulators, right? And if it comes to the question of semiconductors, in the case of semiconductors, right? Yes, in the case of semiconductors, energy gap between the conduction band and valence band is very, very small. Energy gap between, yes, this is valence band and this is conduction band. Yes, there is a small energy gap. Yes, it is. There is a small energy gap. Here it is large energy gap. Yes, because of that, even at room temperature, electrons can enter into the, yes, it is conduction band, and so that they get free space for their movement in presence of, yes, it is electric field. So that's why semiconductors, electrical properties of semiconductors will be in between those of conductors and insulators. When the temperature is raised, electrons can easily jump into the conduction band, and thereby electrical conductivity increases, because when the temperature is increased, more and more number of electrons enter into the conduction band, and thereby, yes, it is electrical conductivity increases, and that is in the case of semiconductors. For your information, in the case of insulators, energy gap is around 6 to 8 electron volts. Energy gap is around 6 to 8 electron volts. In the case of, yes, it is semiconductors, it will be around, yes, it is 0.5 to 1 electron volt. 0.5 to 1 electron volt. That is in the case of, yes, it is semiconductors, right? And of course, 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 joules. So this is what we call it as, yes, it is conductors, semiconductors, and of course insulator. But here in the case of conductors, there is no energy gap between, yes, it is conduction band and valence band, or they are characterized by, yes, it is partially filled valence orbitals, and where a partially filled valence band where electrons will get free space for their movement under the influence of electric field, and that is what we call it as, yes, it is band theory of solids. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು ಅನ್ಕೋತೀನಿ, ಆಗ್ಬೋದಾ? ರೈಟ್. Yes, it is electric effect of temperature on the electrical conductivity of metals. Let me explain that. Effect of temperature of metals. In the case of metals, generally they are very good conductors of electricity, is it not? Electrons are freely flowing. Temperature is increased. When temperature is increased, right? Whatever the metal ions present in the metal will start vibrating. Yes, the metal ions present in the metal lattice will start vibrating, and the vibration of metal ions is going to hinder the electronic movement in the metal. That vibration of metal ions in the metal is going to hinder, is going to disturb, okay na, what we call it as the free movement of the electrons, and thereby electrical conductivity decreases, and that is what we call it as band theory of solids. So with that information, we'll switch over to the next discussion, and of course a detailed discussion on what we call it as semiconductors. We'll see that. Semiconductors now, right? Semiconductors are the solids, or crystalline solids, right? Okay, now you can say solids, whose electrical conductivity is in between those of metals, and yes, it is whose electrical conductivity will be in between those of metals, and or you can say that insulators. Electrical conductivity will be in between those of conductors and insulators. So they are called as semiconductors, right? And of course, these semiconductors will be of, yes, it is two types. One, it will be, yes, intrinsic semiconductors, right? This is one type. Another is extrinsic semiconductors. Extrinsic semiconductors. These are the two types of, yes, it is the semiconductors that you will find. Yes. So intrinsic semiconductors are also known as pure semiconductors, and of course no impurities are present. Yes, they are pure semiconductors. Right? Okay, now when the temperature is increased, yes, right, that electrical conductivity of semiconductors, of intrinsic semiconductors, increases, because when the temperature is increased, just imagine, example for that, we have silicon and of course germanium. They are group 14 elements, right? And look at the silicon here. In the case of silicon, each silicon is covalently bonded to the 4 other silicon atoms, right? Look at this. This is what we call it as lattice of silicon. Yes, this is what we call it as lattice of silicon. Yes, look at this. Each silicon is directly attached to the 4 silicon atoms through covalent bonds, right? And in the case of silicon, you can find here, yes, it is covalent bonds, right? And each covalent bond is characterized by, yes, it is shared pair of electrons, right? Okay, now when the temperature is increased, what happens? These covalent bonds will be broken. Large number of covalent bonds in the lattice of silicon will be broken. Once the covalent bond is broken, what happens? The electrons will be free, and free electrons are released, and thereby electrical conductivity increases, and that is what we call it as intrinsic semiconductors. Okay, that is intrinsic semiconductors are the pure semiconductors in which when temperature is increased, electrical conductivity increases. Okay, now this is because when temperature is increased, large number of covalent bonds between silicon atoms will be broken, which releases free electrons in the lattice, and thereby electrical conductivity increases, right? Now what about extrinsic semiconductors, right? Extrinsic semiconductors are they are impure semiconductors. They are also known as impure semiconductors. That means, yes, it is when impurities are added to the silicon and germanium, okay, na, their electrical properties can be improved. Okay, na, that process of adding impurities to improve the electrical properties of silicon and germanium, and that is called as what we call doping. We call it as that is called as doping there. And as far as extrinsic semiconductors are concerned, they are obtained by adding impurities to the given substance like silicon and germanium. Yes. And of course, what happens when impurities are added? Why that electrical conductivity increases when impurities are added? That we'll see. Okay, na? Why that electrical conductivity increases when impurities are added to the silicon and germanium? Is it not? That we'll see. And before that, we'll see the classification of extrinsic semiconductors. They are classified into two types. One, it will be N-type semiconductors. N-type semiconductors. Okay, na? They are N-type semiconductors. Another is P-type semiconductors. These are the two types of, yes, it is extrinsic semiconductors. Correct? N-type semiconductors. For that, we'll see that, what we call it as lattice of, yes, it is silicon first. Let me write the lattice of silicon. Yes, in the case of silicon, each silicon atom is, yes, covalently bonded to the, yes, 4 other silicon atoms, right? This is what we call it as the lattice of, yes, it is silicon there. Lattice of silicon there. Okay, na? Yes. So when, yes, it is the impurities like, yes, it is, that is what we call it as when impurities like arsenic, yes, phosphorus, antimony, etc. are added to the silicon. Yes, arsenic, phosphorus and antimony. And these impurities are electron-rich impurities. Electron-rich impurities. Or you can say they are pentavalent impurities, right? Means these impurities, in these impurities, an atom is characterized by 5 valence electrons. That is pentavalent, right? Therefore, we call them as electron-rich impurities. Or you can say they belong to group 15 of the periodic table. Yes, all these elements belong to group 15. Yes, if I take, yes, it is arsenic there, right? It is characterized by, yes, it is 5, yes, it is valence electrons around it. Yes, it is characterized by 5 valence electrons around it. Yes, this is arsenic there. In the case of silicon, you will find here the valence electrons will be 4. Yes, look at this. Valence electrons will be 4. And of course, each silicon is characterized by, yes, it is 4 valence electrons. Yes, okay, na? Right. When arsenic is added to the silicon, some of the silicon atoms are replaced by arsenic. Yes, some of the silicon atoms are replaced by arsenic. Okay, na? Gamanisi. Now, I am going to replace one silicon atom with 4 valence electrons. I am going to replace one silicon with 4 valence electrons, right? ಈಗ ಸಿಲಿಕಾನ್ ಹೋಯ್ತು. ಎಸ್, ಆ ಸಿಲಿಕಾನ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಏನು ಹೋಯ್ತು? 4 valence electrons ಹೋಯ್ತು, ಹೌದಾ? In the place of silicon, we'll see that arsenic, yes, in the place of silicon, arsenic enters. Now this arsenic will share 4 valence electrons with neighboring silicon atoms. ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತಿಲ್ಲಿ 5 ಇತ್ತು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ 4 ಶೇರ್ ಆಯ್ತು. You know that fifth one is free. Fifth one is free. And of course, like that, once free electrons are available, then electrical conductivity increases, right? And of course, in the case of N-type semiconductors, the electrical conductivity is because of the movement of the free electrons, negatively charged particles, and that is N-type semiconductors. Okay, na? Hagadre, N-type semiconductors are the semiconductors obtained when silicon is doped with electron-rich impurities like arsenic, silicon, and phosphorus. And they are called as N-type semiconductors. And of course, in the case of N-type semiconductors, electrons are the carriers of electric current. Electrons are the carriers of electric current. And I have shown here replacement of one silicon by one arsenic. So in the same way, many silicon atoms in the sample will be replaced by arsenic, and thereby many free electrons are available. Electrical conductivity increases. And this is what we call N-type semiconductors. Yes. Apart from that, yes, example for the N-type semiconductor andre ನೀವು ಬರೀ ಸಿಲಿಕಾನ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಬಾರದು. Silicon doped with arsenic, yes, germanium doped with phosphorus, like that. These are the examples for, yes, it is N-type semiconductors. Okay, now what about P-type semiconductors, right? We'll see that P-type semiconductors. P-type semiconductors are the semiconductors obtained when silicon or germanium or doped with, yes, it is silicon or germanium is doped with, yes, group 13 elements like boron, aluminum, yes, it is gallium, yes, they are group 13 elements. When this, yes, it is silicon is doped with, yes, it is group 13 elements, they are electron deficient impurities. Electron deficient impurities. They are electron deficient impurities, right? And of course, if I take a sample of, yes, it is aluminum, an atom of aluminum is characterized by 3 electrons. An atom of aluminum is characterized by 3 electrons, right? There are 3 electrons present in the, yes, it is aluminum. That's why we call them as trivalent elements. Their valence is, yes, it is 3, trivalent. When silicon is doped with a trivalent, boron, aluminum or gallium, you are going to get P-type semiconductors. You are going to get P-type semiconductors. How the? Yes. And we'll see that. How can I say that? How these P-type semiconductors are produced, right? As I said, here earlier we had silicon here. Yes. Silicon is howda? Yes. We had silicon with 4 valence electrons. Howdalva? Yes. Now, if I add either boron or aluminum or gallium to this silicon, ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಯಾಂಪಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಸಿಲಿಕಾನ್ ಗೆ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ, this silicon is replaced by aluminum. As I said, silicon will be removed along with its 4 electrons, right? Along with its 4 electrons, right? Now in the place of silicon, yes, it is yaru bartare ಈಗ, yes, it is we have aluminum. Aluminum will enter into this particular, yes, it is the lattice of, yes, silicon. Aluminum is characterized by how many electrons? Yes, 3 electrons. And all the 3 electrons are used for covalent bonding. All the 3 electrons are used for bonding, yes. And 1 electron is, that aluminum faces a shortage of 1 electron. Aluminum faces shortage of 1 electron. That creates vacancy, or you can say that hole. That creates vacancy, or you can say that hole. That is due to the shortage of, yes, it is 1 electron. And that's why in the case of P-type semiconductors, what we say generally, holes are the carriers of electric current. There is a shortage of 1 electron for the aluminum. All the 3 electrons are used for covalent bonding. There is a shortage of 1 electron because we need 4 electrons. Out of 4, aluminum contributes 3, and therefore 1 electron is there is a shortage of 1 electron, and the hole is created. And of course, look at this. Because of that, in the case of, yes, it is P-type semiconductors, electronic holes are, that is, holes are the carriers of electric current. When electric field is applied across the, yes, it is P-type semiconductors, what happens? Look here. The electrons will be moving from here to here like this. Electrons will be moving like this, right? When this electron is moved like this, hole is created here. Now this electron is moving like this. This electron is moving like this. Electrons are moving towards positive plate. Electrons are moving towards positive plate of the electric field. And if electrons are moving like this, in the opposite direction, holes are moving. ನೋಡಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ ಮೂವ್ ಆದಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಲ್ ಬಂತು, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಮೂವ್ ಆದಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಲ್ ಬಂತು. ಹೌದು ತಾನೆ? ಹಾಗೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು? There is a movement of electrons towards the positive plate. Holes will be in the negative plate, that is in the opposite direction. Okay, now, so that is what we call it as P-type semiconductor. Example for the P-type semiconductors ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, that is silicon doped with aluminum, ಅಥವಾ silicon doped with boron, that is silicon doped with aluminum, ಅಥವಾ germanium doped with gallium. You can give as an examples for P-type semiconductors, and that is what we call P-type semiconductors. Is that clear? So with that information, we'll switch over to the next topic, that is applications of semiconductors. That is, we'll see that brief discussion on applications of, yes, it is semiconductors. And of course, nowadays we depend on these semiconductors. Semiconductors have brought revolution in electronic field. Okay, na? And of course, you are using, you are using so many, that is applications of the silicon, or you can say that semiconductors nowadays. Okay, na? And this video class, these online classes, they are also because of semiconductors, is it not? Now, what are the applications of semiconductors ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, right? And of course, N-type and P-type semiconductors are used for the manufacture of varieties of electronic devices, electronic components. Various electronic components can be manufactured starting from, that is silicon and germanium or N-type and P-type semiconductors, right? In the field of electronics, you come across one term that is what we call it as diode, right? Diode is a combination of N and P-type semiconductors. When N-type semiconductor is combined with P-type semiconductors, you are going to get diodes, right? And they are used as rectifiers. These things, in physics you will study, right? That is what we call, they are used in rectifiers. Apart from that, yes, we come across certain electronic devices called transistors, right? They are transistors, right? There are two types of transistors, that is NPN transistors and PNP transistors, right? These are the two types of transistor. This type of transistor is obtained when a layer of P-type semiconductor is sandwiched between layers of N-type semiconductors. Right? That is PNP type. In the case of PNP, there is NPN type. In the case of PNP type, a layer of N-type semiconductor is it is sandwiched between layers of P-type semiconductor. That is what we call transistors. They are used to amplify. Yes, it is. Radio waves. They are used to amplify radio waves. That is what we call it as transistors. Apart from that, nowadays, we have, yes, it is gallium arsenic. Yes, it is gallium arsenic semiconductor. And of course, it is high performing semiconductor, better than silicon and others. And that is used, it has brought some revolution in the field of electronics. That is gallium arsenic. Yes, it is semiconductors. Apart from that, I said in the beginning of this chapter, that is amorphous silicon. Yes, amorphous silicon is used in photovoltaic cells, and of course they are used to convert light energy into electrical energy. They are used to convert light energy into electrical energy. That is what we call amorphous silicon. Apart from that, nowadays, varieties of semiconductors are being introduced. As far as the silicon and germanium are concerned, right? The valency of silicon is 4, right? That silicon is tetravalent, germanium is tetravalent, and they are acting like semiconductors. In the same manner, many semiconductors were designed by the combination of group 13 and group 15 elements. For example, here we have, yes, it is boron is a group 13 element, aluminum is a group 13 element, gallium is a group 13 element, indium is a group 13 element, yes. And of course, nitrogen is a group 15 element, yes. Aluminum, yes, it is. Phosphorus is a group 13 element. Arsenic is a group 13 element. Antimony is a nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, they are group 15 elements. Yes. And boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, they are group 13 elements, right? Combination of this, right? When aluminum combines with aluminum phosphide, and that is acting like a semiconductor. Yes, this is one semiconductor that is designed by the combination of group 13 and group 15. The valency of group 13 elements will be 3, valency of group 15 will be 5. What is the average valency? Average valency is 4. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಯಾಕೆ ಇವನ್ ಕಾಂಬಿನೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಿಲಿಕಾನ್ ವೇಲೆನ್ಸಿ 4 ಇತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, ಹಾಗೆ 13 group elements to valency 3, 15 group elements to valency 5. Average ಎಷ್ಟಾಗುತ್ತೆ? 4. Therefore, combination of 13 and 15 group elements leads to semiconductors, and of course that is successful agide. And then it is gallium arsenic. Yes, it is semiconductor, right? This is one more semiconductor. Indium stibnite. That is Indian stibnite. Yes, this is another semiconductor. Gallium arsenide, aluminum phosphide. They are all the possible semiconductors. They are obtained by the combination of group 13 and 15. Hagene combination of group 12 and group 16. Their average valency is also 4. The valency of group 12 is, yes, it is 2. Valency of group 16 is 6. Average will be 4. For example, here we have zinc, here we have cadmium, and it is mercury. They are the elements of, yes, it is group 12. Yes, here we have, yes, it is oxygen, sulfur, selenium, and tellurium. They are all group 16 elements, right? Combination of these two, that is zinc sulfide. Yes, it is zinc cadmium sulfide. Yes, then cadmium selenide, mercury telluride. They are the, yes, it is different types of semiconductor. That is zinc sulfide is a semiconductor, cadmium sulfide is a semiconductor, cadmium selenide is a semiconductor, mercury telluride is a semiconductor. That is what we call it as different types of, yes, it is semiconductor is possible, right? And apart from that, even we tried some transition metal oxides, transition metal oxides that as semiconductors. Transition elements will have variable valencies, right? And as far as transition metal oxides are concerned, we have transition metal oxides like, yes, it is titanium oxide, yes, and then it is chromium oxide, that is CrO2, and apart from that, we have, yes, it is rhenium oxide, ReO3, right? Okay, now titanium oxide, chromium oxide, and of course rhenium oxide, and they behave like metals, that is highly metallic, means they are acting like metals, means they have got very good electrical conductivities. They are very good conductors. Now we need to generalize. Metals are the good conductors of electricity, and nowadays, varieties of metal oxides are being used as the conductors. Of course, they are acting like metals. Therefore, highly metallic. Yes, then they are very good conductors of electricity. Look at this rhenium oxide. Its electrical conductivity is almost similar to that of copper. Wonderful it is, right? Rhenium oxide, its electrical conductivity is almost similar to rhenium oxide, and it also appears like copper itself. So this is what we call it as metal oxides. Apart from that, we have, yes, it is VO, yes, it is then VO2, and then it is VO3, or you can say TiO3. These are the metal oxides. The electrical conductivities of these depend upon temperature. Whether it is a conductor or insulator, that depends on the temperature. Generally, at high temperature, they act like a conductors. At low temperature, they behave like a insulators. And of course, like that, the electrical conductivity of these metal oxides depend upon the temperature. Yes, and that is what we call it as oxides of transition elements, like D block elements. So this is what we call the applications of semiconductors. This is what we call it as applications of semiconductors. Yes. Agboda? Right.